There's another storied program in Berkeley High School. You talk about Gene Ransom and Phil Chenier. You know, Berkeley was another school that had a tremendous amount of athletes.
I can look out on the basketball court and I see ghosts. I see the ghosts of the past. You know, I see Phil Chenier shooting his famous one-leg jump shot. I see Doug Kagawa bringing the ball up court, breaking the defense down, breaking the press.
Phil Chenier was a 6'3" guard back in the time when 6'3" people were playing center.
Phil Chenier obviously could do all the things at guard at 6'3" that someone 5'10" could do.
He actually made everyone else look better because, especially me as a passing guard, that I would give him a pass on a fast break. It might be a little low, but he would just pick it up one scoop and finish it. And people talk about his jump shot a lot, but from my point, what made us a good team at the high school was Phil's defensive ability.
And I did a big 5-part series on him in the Gazette, like as if he was Oscar Robertson or Jerry West. His senior year, he was probably one of the premier guards in the country on the recruiting trail. And I remember seeing John Wooden come up to see him play. I mean, everybody wanted Phil. And I think Spike Hensley probably had the idea that Phil's future would be as a pro and that he would be a guard.
Spike was a visionary coach. I think he had vision in that he knew that, you know, we all wanted to go on and do other things, and he allowed us the opportunity to grow and develop. What I really liked about him is that he wasn't one that tried to overcoach.
And what he was really big on was on defense, especially on the full court press.
And I don't think we got a lot of credit for the kind of defense we played. I mean, with Doug and Carl Shelton, I mean, they would be ball hawking you. Carl always had quick hands, super quick hands and quick feet. He had a quick shot, release shot on his jump shot.
And Carl was kind of the quiet, big killer on our team. I mean, you have Phil on one side, you got Carl on the other side shooting away. I just distributed the ball and watched. And I had teammates that we could play off each other where, you know, I could set my man up defensively, try to turn him as many ways as I could. And so Carl would be right there, the quickest player I've ever played with or even seen. And we would press from the tip-off to the end of the game, and basically it was like a run-and-jump situation, and our press was basically our offense. We would just get after people. It was like a feeding frenzy. We would just pressure the guy. The quickness is just amazing.
The 1968 Tournament of Champions, in my estimation, was one of the greatest tournaments of all time.
Phil Chenier played in that tournament. So it was an electric atmosphere with a great basketball player. Actually, there was more than Phil out there. There were several.
In the '68 TOC, there was a buzz around the whole Oakland, Berkeley areas, Berkeley Mac. It was Chenier against Nate Williams.
And here comes Nate the Great Williams coming in, you know, and he was like 6'4", 6'5", powerhouse build.
In the MAC game, Phil had 22 of our first 24 points. And the 42 points that Phil scored that night broke the TOC scoring record for an individual game.
My first experience in going to the TOC, they had tickets available to go to watch Phil Chenier and those guys play against Woodrow Wilson High School. And I remember one of the elements to get into the game, everybody had to wear a white t-shirt so the whole cheering section would look uniform. And I remember I had a ticket that was really way up in the very top of the building.
My high school, Woodrow Wilson, they went 30-0. And we had Ainsley Truitt. He was about 6'10". That was our Lou Alcindor, you know, our Kareem Abdul-Jabbar guy. And he had a bunch of role players that could really play accompanying him on his march to the TOC championship in 1968. And to win that tournament was quite an accomplishment.
It was such a spectacular event, such a great game, that I said to myself that day and that night that I wanted to play in the TOC one day.
I remember Spike Hensley talking about the crop that was coming up in a few years, and he mentioned a guy by the name of John Lambert. He said, this guy can really play, you know, he's about 6'10".
John Lambert was kind of the steady enforcer, the rebounder. He was the guy you could depend on for his 10 or 12, 15 rebounds a game. And the recruiters loved his size, of course.
Now I'm at Cal Berkeley, and Berkeley High is the #1 team in the state. They had Lambert, they had Marvin Buckley, Larry Green, Dan Pally was on that team, and at Glenn Burke.
I remember Glenn Burke right now just hanging and switching hands and triple pumping all in one motion.
But Glenn had incredible hang time too. I mean, I've seen him do some phenomenal things.
Glenn was constantly filmed in the papers, still hanging in the air while the defensive players were on the ground. And you'd think he might have gotten a head start on the jump and he was in the air because he just took off faster than he did. The answer is he was up in the air, they'd already gone up and come back down again, and he was still up there.
I remember John Nixovich. He was like the first Pete Maravich of our era as far as high school basketball. He had all the trickery, he had the no-look passes. I mean, he was awesome with the ball. Then you have your John Lambert. I could see John Lambert swatting shots in the stand.
In those days, Marvin Buckley was just a terrific jump shot artist. And that's what made our team so difficult to defend against. And Marvin could just shoot from anywhere. He got points in bunches. And I think to have met Wilson in the final game of the TOC and to have defeated them was really great vindication for Berkeley High, not only for me, but for all the other players that played before me. During my senior year in 1971, one of the other really contributing players to the team was Rupert Jones. And Rupert added a real element to the team that we were missing that year. We had lost Marvin Buckley, we had lost Glenn Burke, we had lost Dan Pally, and he came in as a sophomore and was a real catalyst for the team. He could handle a basketball, he could pass, he could shoot and score, and he had the kind of personality that was just infectious with everybody.
Oh man, Rupert Jones was my first idol. Rupert was a left-hander, but he shot the ball right-handed. He was awesome with his passes. He was smooth as silk.
Gene Ransom, Glenn Burke, and Rupert Jones. They were three of the finest backcourt men I've ever seen.
And these are players who, in a space of 4 or 5 or 6 years, dominated prep basketball in the area.
Gene Ransom at 5'9" had to be one of the truly great guards in the Bay Area. And for that matter, probably the state.
We called him the Dream. I mean, he was Gene the Dream. From his sophomore year, you could tell that he was going to be a great basketball player.
Gene Ransom was just an outstanding talent and a great long-range player and exciting. You know, at 5'9", he was as fast as could be and strong.
To me, he was one of the consummate athletes. You know, he could just do, I mean, I don't even think basketball was his best sport. I think baseball was his thing.
He was a heck of a baseball player, could pitch, could hit.
But Ransom was the little spark plug, and I mean, he could hold his own as a sophomore. And he was more of the exciting type.
Some of the things that he did were just amazing, truly amazing.
Gene was a nightmare. He was a spectacular ball player and could embarrass you out there with his skills. He was doing 360s before people were doing 360s.
There's certain talents in the basketball world that you're born with it. It's something as a coach you just can't coach.
I actually remember this particular shot. It was done by Gene Ransom at Berkeley High School. He came dribbling down to the right, and as he went up and saw that guy going to block the ball, he caught his own ball here like this in his left hand. As he was coming down, he dropped the ball like this back into his right hand and put it in. I'm telling you, I could not believe it.
He was the California version of Earl to Pearl Monroe.
Gene had the ability when he's coming down the corridor in our half-court set or when he's creating things that he doesn't just see the one man open, he sees the whole court. He sees 9 guys at the same time. He just felt the game. It was just as another point guard watching Gene, it was just poetry in motion, and the best offense was just get it in Gene's hand and let him create.
At every level he played, he set assist records. In many ways, he was the prototype of the great guards of today. He was the whole package.
There's really only one Gene Ransom.